Alrighty then. Welcome to our last and fantastic day of living the hero's journey, and I'm excited to find out how this story ends. Our heroes have been searching for the holocron to give back to Nabob the Hutt so that he can give them the special decoder so that they can get the special information out of the stolen Imperial droid so that they can finally find out what very important secret information has been on the droid the whole time. And to do that, they're going to have to fly back to Nabob's hut, which means our good friends, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So, over here on my left, I have Sean and his character.
Hi guys, I'm going to be playing Florg the Trandoshan again. Remember, he's the lovable oaf.
Excellent, excellent. So he's playing the archetype, the lovable oaf, and he is on his way back along with his other friend on my right.
Hi, I'm Sky, Lady Fern, whoever it is you want to say. I'm going to be Archimedes again, the creator who likes to invent things.
Excellent. The creator and the lovable oaf on their way back to Nabob the Hutt's palace. They get to his palace. The palace guards let you inside of the palace. You have the droid at your side, represented by this dice, and you walk up to him while he sits on his throne. And you are there to deliver the wampa that you have already given to his guards. And he is here to give you the holocron if he sees fit. You walk on up there, and Nabob the Hutt puts his hands on his big belly and goes, oh, oh, ah, ah, oh, 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 ah, 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 oh, 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 oh. Who are you again?
Hello there, Mr. Nabob the Huddle. My name is Florg, and I'm a Trandoshan.
And the little one.
I'm Archimedes. You sent us to get you something?
Did you bring me the wampa?
Yes.
We gave it to your guards outside because they didn't fit.
And the Rancor. They told me it was a baby Rancor. Do you think that is good enough?
Yeah, it'll grow into a big one, and it likes to be sung to.
Well then, I accept your gifts. In that case, I will give you the decoder of the information for your probe droid. He then indicates to some of his guards who bring out and hand you, Archimedes, the decoder for the droid. What do you guys then do?
I take the decoder. I say thank you very much for your business, Mr. Nabob. I think that's all we have left here.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Bye, Mr. Nabob. I really like your tail.
Do you guys then leave?
Yeah.
Alright, you leave the palace, and where do you go?
Back to the ship.
Alright, you get back to the ship that has landed a few miles near the palace. You are now on board the ship with the droid and the decoder.
Archimedes, can you use the decoder?
I'm gonna try and figure out. So, I'm gonna go ahead and roll to decipher the decoder. I've got 2 successes.
Excellent. You spend the next 2 days trying to figure out how to use this very accomplished decoder device. Eventually, you think that you have gotten it completely figured out. You put it into the droid, and at that very moment, the droid, a hatch inside the droid opens up, and a little camera comes out, and it begins projecting a hologram out in front of you, and a picture of a hologram of a woman comes on, and before she starts speaking, you hear the sound of a lightsaber turn on, and you see the glow of a red lightsaber as you both look behind you, and you hear the sound of breathing. And you see and hear the heavy steps of a very tall figure dressed in all black with a black mask and a black cape and a black helmet as this red lightsaber glows. And that is where we are going to end our story. Right there. Now we're going to talk about story endings, because there's so many different ways. Right now, if we were to actually just end the story right there, we would have what's known as an unresolved story ending. It leaves you wanting to know, what happens? Who is this black figure? Is this Darth Vader? Is it not Darth Vader? Is it a different character? Who knows? It doesn't matter. The point is, you want to know what happens next. You've been wanting to get this information out of the droid the whole time. You didn't even find out what that information it is, but now here it is, this black figure, clearly a bad guy who has come to fight them for whatever his reason might be. Obviously, he's probably from the Empire. And here he is, and it's completely unresolved. Sometimes stories end completely like this. And that's super fantastic, because it makes you want to read the next book or see the next movie. Now, we also could have ended the story with them getting the decoder from Nabob and walking back to the ship and getting the information, and it could have information about how to defeat the Empire, or it could have information that resolved the whole thing. It get to the end, blah blah blah, and it's finished up. That would be a resolved ending, right? It fills in all the gaps, you get the end, what have you. So there we go. We have resolved and unresolved. However, there are a few different types of endings. We have the ambiguous ending, which leaves the audience wondering what happens next, yes, but also kind of what has been going on the whole time. A lot of stories you kind of find out maybe it was a dream the whole time. Maybe this was a storybook. So sometimes you'll have an ending, and then at the end of the ending, you find out that it was grandpa or grandma reading this book to their grandson or granddaughter. And you're like, wait, so this was a story inside of a story, and it makes you wonder who grandpa is. And so that is a good example. Or it's a dream. Or it could leave you with thinking maybe this character wasn't really a character at all. Some other examples might be the hero character you've been following along with the whole time turns out to perhaps maybe be a robot or an android, and they're not a real human at all. So it makes you think that maybe the whole story has kind of had a whole different meaning or purpose. So it leaves you kind of going, wow! Maybe they are a robot, maybe they're not a robot. We also have the unexpected plot twist. Sometimes this involves a character that you thought was gone, comes back. Or something that you thought was gone or didn't exist is gone and it comes back. It's unexpected, something just shows up. A bad guy who you thought was totally defeated has come back. So it's unexpected plot twist that could come from so many different angles and so many different things. It's just leave your mind to create whatever unexpected thing you want. Then the other one, which is a tied ending. This is what happens in Star Wars in a lot of ways, but it also happens in Lord of the Rings. The characters, they start in the Shire, they go on this great adventure, and then they end up back at the Shire doing the same things that they had left doing. So they were there having parties and eating and having feasts, and then at the end, there they are back at the Shire having fun, eating and drinking and having feasts again. It ties all the way back. And it almost kind of leaves you with the idea that maybe the next thing that happens is they end up going on another adventure, or their kin go on an adventure, their children go on an adventure, and then it just kind of seems to happen over and over again. The bad guys have been defeated, but it leaves you with the idea that maybe they'll come back, and it's going to happen all over again in a very circular fashion, so that it's basically just happening over and over and over again, and it always starts in a similar place and ends in the same place. All right. Now, we have expanded. Now, this one is one that we see a lot, where basically it's resolved, the ending fits, it's resolved, haha, and the characters then basically just live happily ever after, but sometimes we want to know, what is that happily ever after like? So, Snow White, Cinderella, all of these stories, they get the prince, they live in the castle, right? Well, do they have children? What happens? Do they end up in a war? Do they end up happy? What is it? So expanded is, what is that? So that would be the idea of basically, a lot of times at the end of books or the end of movies, they'll give you kind of a short little description of what happens. I think one of the best examples of this was actually in the Marvel movies just recently that came out, where we find out that they had defeated Thanos, and then you find out, well, what happens to the rest of the characters? We find out that Captain America, he goes back in time, and he ends up staying there and living his life out with his love, and he gets married and whatever, and then he is an old man. And we find out that. We also find out that some of these other characters pass off their reins to other characters for them to go on their own brand new adventures. So you find out what happens at the end of them. And so what we're going to do right now is we are going to go ahead and do a couple of these so you can have an idea. And we're going to do an outline. So we're going to take 3-4 minutes to do a quick outline on one of these. I would like you to go ahead and pick the one that you feel the most comfortable doing. Do an outline on that one, and we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and go through all our outlines with you, and then your homework or your finishing little project will be to go ahead and actually complete a page and a half or so on the ending to how you want the story to end. And feel free to end it with your characters, your archetype characters, the whole time. All right, so for Lady Miss Fern Sky, I'm going to give you the unexpected, so a plot twist. Ooh. Pill, I'm going to give you expanded. So where does Florg and our characters end? Now, they can choose to have the ending where Nabob just gives them the holocron, what happens next, or they could choose to take their story and end it with the next part where the black figure with the lightsaber comes in. So you can end it after Nabob gives you the holocron or the decoder, or you can end it after that. So you can start your ending. So basically we did that little part to show you two different examples of what's already here. So we're not going to do that one. I am going to go ahead and do tied ending, so the circular one. So we're going to go ahead and do a few quick minutes on that. Go ahead, write your outline, and then we'll come back. All right, so our timer has come off. It's been about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. If you need more time, go ahead, stop this here, finish your outline, and then come on back. So I'm gonna go ahead and start mine. Mine is tied ending. This is the circular one, where basically it ends where it started off. So the last thing that happened in my story that we left off on was Darth Vader had stepped right onto the ship, boom, turns his glowing red lightsaber on. The heroes turn to him and see that he is there. They quickly push a button to close the door and launch the ship, which actually pushes Darth Vader out the door, and he falls on the ground outside, and the ship begins flying away from the planet and gets into space, where there is a Star Destroyer chasing them, shooting their lasers and their turbo lasers at the ship. And so the final scene is the ship flying, trying to escape an Imperial Star Destroyer, which is exactly where our story had started. It was a ship, all of our heroes were on board it, and a fleet of Star Destroyers was chasing them. And so the idea is that this is a very circular thing, that the rebels, they continue to try to defeat and get advantages on the Empire, but the Empire continues to chase and hunt them down. And it leaves you with this feeling of maybe there's some hope because there's new information and new successes that have been gained in this story, but that the Empire is going to continue to hunt them down until they've been completely defeated. But the hope is in the circular concept that the heroes, whoever they may be, whatever ship they might be, will always be trying to defeat the Empire, even though it continues to rise back up and continue to chase them. The heroes will continue to rise back up and try to defeat the Empire. So it's basically the idea that yes, there is the bad guys, but there's also the good guys, and they're constantly in this circular battle where they're trying to defeat one another, so that there's this constant struggle in the galaxy. So it leaves you kind of thinking, oh, is there a way out of this, or is it just circular forever? So that was mine. Go ahead, Sean, what did you do? You had expanded.
I had the expanded, so I wrote a little bit of an epilogue, and I wanted to do the outline of that. So I put it as 10 years after Nabob the Hutt gave our heroes the decoder. We have Florg and Archimedes sitting at a chess table, catching up about what they've been doing since the Empire was destroyed, with that information that they got. So the conflict of this scene is that Archimedes makes really good chess play, but surprisingly, Florg was able to counteract and win. And afterward, Florg thanks Archimedes for teaching him the game of chess, and that she taught him so well that now he is a chess champion and goes around to different planets being a professional chess player, and he no longer has to use his muscles anymore, and now he can use his brain in order to do things. And Archimedes, we also find out, has had a very successful business because she invented a brand new type of droid, and she was going to show Florg that new type of droid and why it made her so famous and rich and let her be the best droid builder in all of the land.
Awesome. Very, very, very good epilogue. We see that Archimedes finally, with the Empire being defeated, was able to do the thing that she wanted, to create things that I'm sure this droid benefited tons of people and made her very successful. So it kind of wrapped up her archetype and story arc. We also find out that Florg himself, he ends up becoming a very well-rounded character and learned a lot from this adventure from Archimedes, and he ended up becoming a very smart character who not only now is very smart, he probably also retains his strength. So he gets very well-rounded at the end, which means he went from being one type of character to being a completely different type of character as far as his archetype, which is really good. You want your characters to go from one point to another. You don't want them to stay flat and static. All right, Lady Miss Fern, what did you put?
Well, I had the unexpected ending, so here it goes. I start off with, as the characters see the cloaked figure wielding the lightsaber, the red lightsaber, they immediately react. But before Floor could even charge at Vader, Vader instantly puts him in a chokehold through the Force, and Archimedes is thrown across across the ship before she can get her phaser out to shoot at him. And at this moment, all hope seems kind of devastated and lost as Vader slowly goes towards the droid with the hologram image up on it. And then few seconds right before he goes and grabs the droid, he's interrupted by a huge blast that comes up from the other side of the ship, and it is Shen Kodu along with other rebels, and if we remember, she is the same general who we thought was lost in the Star Destroyer battle at the very beginning, and she has explained that she has orchestrated this entire scenario of with Nabob and everything with to have Archimedes and Florg try to get Vader in a single location, because they know that that Archimedes and Florg would have the droid and he would go after it. So get him in a single location where she is going to go and have her ships drop out of hyperspace and attack him, and hopefully, probably, blow him up.
Ooh, excellent. So basically, the unexpected twist is that the character who set this up, the admiral, the captain, Shannon Doe, he'd orchestrated this entire story to happen to be a trap to basically get Darth Vader in a single place the whole time. So the whole time we're going through this story, we think we're trying to kind of overcome and escape the Empire, when in fact, we're actually trying to lure it. And so you think you're in an Empire trap, but you're actually setting the trap for the bad guys. So very cool, and it makes you kind of re-look at the story all over again from a different perspective to see if there are any things you can pick up on that make you kind of go, oh, there were the hints and the clues to how this was actually a trap set up all from the beginning. Like Nabob the Hutt, kind of clearly like very much a bad guy. Why is he having them do all of these kind of things? Probably because he had, already talked to the captain and known about this, and so that was the whole idea in the first place. And that was why it had to be Nabob. Why did it have to be Nabob? Yeah, we were told in the story that he was the only one who would have the decoder, but in a galaxy in the Star Wars universe where there's just thousands of different characters who would probably know how to do this, he's the only one. Well, it's not that he's the only one. He's the only one who's agreed to work with her to trap Darth Vader. Maybe because he doesn't like Darth Vader very much either. So, there we go. We have 3 different ideas, and you saw the story actually play out as a resolved and unresolved. So the only one we didn't do, which was basically the ambiguous one, which is basically the idea of maybe Florg wakes up and this is all a dream, and he wakes back up and he looks out his window and they're being chased down by the Empire. Or he wakes back up and you find out that Florg is actually just a little kid and he was dreaming about this great big adventure that he was going on. Or we pull out from the scene and the scene is actually all happening on a video game. And it's actually 2 kids playing a video game as Florg and Archimedes, and so it's kind of ambiguous, and it leads you to go, wait, was this story real? Was it not real? Did it happen in a video game? And so that would be a very good example of that. So now that you have an outline for how a story ends, all these different ways that it can end, go ahead, your final project is to go ahead and write how the story actually ends. Now, I want to mention something with Lady Miss Sky Furron's story. It ends with Darth Vader being trapped and probably defeated. That's great. Don't worry about writing your story so that it fits what happens in the Star Wars universe. If you want to defeat Darth Vader in your story and finish his character story out, that is perfectly fine with me. It doesn't have to fit with what happened in the actual movies. So, with that point being taken, take the story anywhere you want it to go. It can fit, it doesn't have to, whatever you want. It's up to you. Pick one of these, tell me which one you picked, and then tell me the end of the story. I like our versions, but I'm really excited to find out what your versions are. It should be a fairly long ending so that there's a lot of meat to it. Alrighty then. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to read all of your stories. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.